Hello everybody, my name is Dominic. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be starting a brand new series on my channel called The Film Breakdown. On this series, I will be going through a series of different films at least once per week, and I'll be explaining and going into a deep dive of what makes them such a great film, including things like some deeper themes, some social commentary, and even just some technical aspects. And for the first week, I decided to go with the amazing film Bicycle Thieves. Bicycle Thieves is the most famous and probably the most iconic film from the 1940s Italian neo-realism movement, and in my opinion is a perfect film. This movement was essentially a film movement categorized by stories amongst the poor working class, and often used non-professional actors in the film to give a sense of authenticity and more realism, as the name Italian neo-realism describes. It was typically used to represent the social disorder and extreme poverty in Italy at the time, especially amongst the lower class. Some of the most famous Italian neo-realism films include, but are not limited to, Roma Città Aperta, I Vitelloni, La Strada, Viaggio in Italia, and of course, Bicycle Thieves. Without any more talk about the Italian neo-realism movement and its history, let's get into the breakdown of the poster child of this movement, which is Bicycle Thieves. Bicycle Thieves is a story about an unemployed man who finally finds work hanging posters around war-torn Rome. His wife sells many of their belongings so Antonio can afford a bicycle from the pawn shop, which is vital to his job. However, disaster strikes when Antonio's bicycle is stolen from him. Alongside his son Bruno, he scours the city, growing increasingly desperate for justice as his bicycle is vital to his job, which is feeding his family. Many associate the overall meaning of this film to generally represent the quote, "An eye for an eye makes the world go blind." Now, if you don't know what this quote means, essentially what it means is if someone does something to harm you, the right thing to do isn't necessarily to do something to harm them back. As this quote describes, if someone takes your eye and you just take their eye out to make everything even, that just makes the world go blind because nobody will have eyes anymore. It doesn't actually solve anything. And so this film is perfectly describing this, because Antonio grows increasingly desperate for justice, and he really wants to see the man who stole his bike punished, when that might not necessarily be the proper thing to do, but it shows the increasing desperation of someone who's in extreme poverty and needs this bicycle to feed his family. Now this goes on to some deeper things like the bicycle and what it represents. And I see the bicycle as a metaphor for Antonio and his family's life and humanity, because this bicycle means everything to him. If he doesn't have this bicycle, he doesn't have a job. If he doesn't have his job, he can't feed his family and they will starve. So this bicycle represents his humanity. This is why he grows so desperate to find his bicycle and to serve justice to whoever stole it, because this bicycle is what's allowing his family to survive, what's allowing his family to eat. So I think this bicycle is not just a bicycle, but it is a deeper representation of Antonio's humanity. Next up, I think something that adds to the realistic feel of this neo-realism film is the casting of non-professional actors in the lead roles. Now supposedly, Vittorio De Sica, who directed this film, wanted Cary Grant to play the lead role. If you don't know who Cary Grant is, he played the lead role in Alfred Hitchcock's North by Northwest, and while he is a great actor, I think he displays incredible charisma and he's super likable in North by Northwest and other films. I think that casting would have made this film not as prominent as it is today, because the neo-realism films really benefited from the sort of raw and unprofessional feeling of these obviously non-professional actors. Now, the actor that De Sica actually went to cast is a factory worker, and I think this works incredibly well in the film because he kind of displays this realism feel, which is obviously what they were going for, and it gives this film a whole other level of authenticity because he is just a real person who actually was in the working class and was probably struggling because of the post-fascist government, obviously in war-torn Italy after World War II ended. And because of this, I think they were able to produce one of the most realistic films I've ever seen, one of the most authentic films I've ever seen. And also his performance, because he doesn't feel very charismatic and very charming, it makes you relate to him more because he seems more like a normal person, which obviously he was. And I think this works incredibly well. I was super invested because I was rooting for this guy. I really felt bad for him because this bike, obviously, as I said before, was a metaphor representing his humanity, and his family almost struggled to survive. And because that got stolen from him, his family was struggling and they couldn't make any money, they couldn't eat. And I think that this increasing desperation was something that I even felt throughout the duration of this film. I really put myself in Antonio's shoes, and if you do that, if you put yourself in his shoes throughout the film, I think it'll really give a sense of relatability, and that'll make you that much more invested in this film, and that will make the experience just so much better. So if you do watch this film, I recommend putting yourself in his shoes and kind of feeling like what he would feel like, and that just elevates the film to a whole other level in my opinion. Obviously the technical aspects are just outstanding. They would have to be outstanding for this to be considered a masterpiece, which I do, but then it also has those underlying themes and social commentary, which is what I think makes this film a perfect film. In my opinion, no matter where you sit on a political spectrum, whether you're a film buff, whether you're a casual moviegoer, whether you're a filmmaker, I think everyone should watch this film at some point in their life. I think regardless of your ideologies, this film will touch you and it will hit you in a place that really no other film I have ever seen has hit me before. It will give you a sense of relatability that I think almost no other film has matched. It's regardless of what you think politically or ideologically, this film really relates and resonates with you. And not only does it resonate with you and it is one of the most touching and important films that I've ever seen, it is one of the most important films for probably one of, if not the most important cinematic movement in history. So if you are a film buff, if you are a filmmaker, this is definitely one of the most important films that you have to see, because it was the poster child for an extremely important movement in the history of film, and that is why I personally watched it, and now I think it is a perfect movie, one of my favorites of all time. It changed the lives of many people, and maybe it can change yours next. So I highly recommend you go check this film out, Bicycle Thieves, directed by Vittorio De Sica. And that is it. Thank you guys so much for watching the very first episode of the film breakdown. If you enjoyed, definitely leave me a like down below and subscribe to my channel, because I'm going to be making this a weekly series on my channel. Leave me comments down below of films that you think I should do next. I do have a few episodes planned pretty far into the future, so I won't get into your recommendations for a while, but I still want to see what films you think I should do next. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but that's it for me. I'll see you in the next one.